Hi, I'm Erik Weir. I'm humbled. I'm grateful to be here. My purpose here today is to change your perspective, to give you tools to massively change your life, to show you how to increase your productivity by the end of March by 300%, and how to set goals that will challenge your perspective 8x. In order to do that, it's important to have perspective, to know where you are, to think of mission and vision and legacy and impact. For all of us, there's a vision. There's how we would like life to be. There is a mission, the steps that we take in life to get there. And there also is a legacy and there is an impact. Those were a few part of the projects that I was a part of over the years. But this is what we want to focus on. Mission, vision, legacy, impact. Where are you today? Where do you want to go? In order to share perspective, I need to tell you where I started. The fact that I'm speaking today is really a miracle because at age 5, I had a car accident that gave me a dramatic brain injury, and I lost the ability to speak. And I stuttered terribly till age 40. And I stuttered so badly that we went to the speech therapist at age 5. And this is not like the PC speech therapist where everything's going to be fantastic. This was the kind that was like, life's going to be hard speech therapist. So I'm sitting there, and in my mind's eye, I'm on a chair, and my legs are dangling, right? My legs are dangling because I'm a little guy. And the speech therapist said some very difficult things to me. He said, Erik, life is going to be hard for you because every conversation is going to be difficult. Every new experience is going to be hard. And the odds are you'll be a failure. The odds are you'll stop and you'll be reclusive. He said, however, if you push through and if you see every conversation as a challenge and every obstacle as a stepping stone, you can be very successful because you will have had so many obstacles you've overcome in life by the time you're 10 or 15, more than most people ever deal with. But the choice is yours. Now, the big decision when I left is what are my parents going to say? Are they like, this person's a quack, forget about it? Or are they going to embrace it? And my father said, Erik, life is hard, and it's going to be hard. So let's get started. So the first day, they set up a lemonade stand for me in front of my house. And I stutter, right? And my name's Erik Weir. When you stutter, E's are hard, W's are hard, and I charge 50 cents for lemonade. And forget about F's. They're impossible. So I'm sitting at the lemonade stand, and people would always come. For some reason, they have to ask, how much is a lemonade? And I'd point to it. That never worked. They would ask a second time. And I'm like, it's 50 cents. And I was horrified and nervous. But I noticed one thing. I never once got 50 cents. I got $1. I got $5. Like, yay! This stuttering gig works. Not at school, I got picked on, but it was a tool, right? So I got home that night, walked up the driveway. My father got home, and he goes, well, how was the lemonade stand? I said, I made $86 today. This is 1972, right? And he's like, I don't think I made $86 today. And I'm like, yeah. So the next day, I'm an entrepreneur, right? The next day, I drag the table out. I make the lemonade, bring all the stuff out, and I had another banner day. They got home for dinner. My parents opened the cabinets. Where's the glassware? Dishwasher, where are they? They said, Erik, where are the glassware? I said, I sold it all. And that's what I learned about cost of goods sold. So business has a cost, right? Time, energy, talent. How do we think? I put 2 charts, successful thinking, unsuccessful thinking. Unsuccessful thinking is thinking, who can I blame? I was mad at God. I was mad at everything from my stutter, right? Who can I blame? And do we spend time thinking about who we can put stuff off on, or do we spend time owning it? I spoke to a college class at a major university a month ago, right? And I said, I'm going to say something you've never heard. I said, what? I said, it's your fault. And they're like, that was the most offensive thing. And I said, no, it's good, though. Think about it. I said, you're exactly where you are because of the decisions you've made, the beliefs you've had, the friends you've associated with, and the effort you've put in. They're like, wow, it's my fault. I said, that's the good news because now you're not a victim. Because now you can choose different friends. You can choose to invest time differently. You can make different choices, and you can make a difference. So if it's your fault, that's the good news. You can make the change. And as we move through, it's perspective. Life is all about perspective. And where are you today? Where do you see yourself? Where do you want to end up going? The most important thing to think about is life is a wheel. There are 5 F's: faith, family, fitness, finance, friends. I always put the center as faith, my belief system. What are your beliefs? It could be about yourself, it could be what you believe in. That's one thing. Family, fitness, finance, friends. Those are the 5 F's. They're critical. And what's so important about that is I make it a wheel, like 1 to 10. From 1 to 10, where are you? In any area. I've never had everything all worked out. And it's a balance, but I'm not so sure there is a balanced life. There's a life that can be in harmony. But I take the test about every 90 days. How's my health? How's my family? How's my fitness? What I found in working with people for 30 plus years is we tend to ignore areas for a prolonged period of time. And if you ignore area for a short period of time, you have a new addition to the family. Well, hard to find time to work out, hard to do other things, right? So you're ignoring other areas. But the areas you ignore long term consume you in the end. If you ignore everything to make wealth, then you spend your wealth to get back your health. If you ignore relationships, then you spend all your time trying to restore them in the end. So where are you spending your time? And on one talk I gave, I said, no one has a round wheel. One guy said, I do. And I'm like, wow, amazing. All these talks, no round wheel. He goes, everything's a 2. It's all terrible. So that's not the goal, but just to be aware of where you are and how you make change. But thoughts are things. We have to think, who are we listening to? What friends are in our lives? Are our friends there? And you know what it's like. You have a bad experience. You know who's going to take your side, right? You call those people. Are they the best people in your life? What do you think about? What beliefs do you have, and what perspective do you have? Henry Ford is famous for saying, whether you believe you can or you believe you cannot, in either case, you're probably right. I keep an hourglass on my desk. Sadly, it's not as nice as this hourglass. It's a pretty basic one. But when I do it, it's to remind me, I don't know how much sand is above a little Venturi. I just don't know. None of us know how much time we have left. But when we spend our time of the day, most of our day is spent thinking about the sand that's gone through. That's on the bottom. Decisions we've made, things we regret, things we wish we could change. Those are things we really have no power over. What we can change are the decisions we're making right now. So when we think about time, be efficient and think about where you can be, what change you can make. And I want everyone here to be a visionary. Well, a visionary is somebody who sees things that aren't here. And I put a full definition, but let's leave being a visionary. Let's leave imagining where things could be. Where could we finish in life? And when we have setbacks, I have a podcast, and I had interviewed a gentleman today named Joe Foster. Joe Foster founded Reebok. And I talked to him, and I said, what do you think about business, and what would you tell somebody? He said, I would tell them to do something that they find fun, they enjoyable, it feeds their soul. I said, okay, that's good advice. I said, what else? He said, I would tell them there are going to be setbacks. There's going to be problems. And look at those as opportunities and find ways to climb them. And I think that's fantastic, so I'm sharing that with you today. So expect setbacks. When you have them, recognize them, review them, and realign. What could you do differently in the future? And then begin to rebound. But there is no success without setback. I've interviewed hundreds of people who've done very well in life. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a setback. Everyone has pain in their life, things they wish didn't happen. But review them, pivot. How do you make change? And realize that you've got to watch out for stress. Stress is part of life. How many of us fantasize about a stress-free life? One day, I'm going to be on the beach, right? I'm going to be here. I'm going to be someplace. There'll be no stress. The problem is you have relatives. So you're going to have stress. There's no such thing as a stress-free life. So the fantasy is, how do you, knowing what you now know, how do you make the best decisions for you? And success is a decision. And it's certainly not all financial. I've been with some very wealthy people near the end of their life, and guess what they wanted most of? Time with people they cared about. That's what they had. And I asked, again, Mr. Foster today, when I talked to him, he goes, I would tell people to enjoy life. He came from he said his grandfather's very successful, did very well financially, but he's not sure how much enjoyment he had along the way. So smell the roses along the way. It's very important when it comes to life and to thinking about the future. And when you have a chance to think about where you are today and the difference in where you want to go, what I recommend people to do is to really begin to think strategically. How do you think strategically? How do you, knowing what you now know, how do you begin to move ahead? And what I like to have people to think about is start every day with strategic planning. Begin to think about what today could I do that could make a massive change in my life. And I start every day with that. Take 20 minutes. What one thing could I do in faith, family, fitness, finance, friends? What could I do to make a massive change in my life? And then the second thing I try to do is then to think defensively. Are there people I don't want to deal with? The phone calls I don't want to have to return, or the stuff I have to do, the mundane. I think defensively. And then the next thing I do is I think moonshot. What one thing could I do that could massively change my life? What one thing could I do that would massively change my life? And then I take my time and I take a moonshot every day. And a moonshot could be anything. If you are a chiropractor and you said, if I had Clemson University today hire me as their exclusive, that would change everything for me. You call Clemson that day. The next day, if I had USC, you call them the next day. The next day, if I had University of Georgia, you call them the next day. You take 365 major shots a year for whatever it is for your career and watch how your life changes. You won't bat zero. And if you do that, you will massively change your life. And I'll say every day I try to say something. It was like Joe Foster, founder of Reebok. I just called him. Yeah, I'll be on your podcast. And he goes, yes. I call people all the time. No, I'm busy, can't get through. But I do it every day, and you'll find that that will change your life. So think about it. Take time every morning. Think offense. What can I do to gain ground? Defense. What can I do to hold ground, right? Think strategically. How can you make strategic changes in faith, family, fitness, finance, friends? And then moonshot. That's probably the biggest thing. And as I prepare to close, it's really perspective. And I'm a history buff, and I love Winston Churchill. And the scene is the 1940s, World War II. And Winston Churchill is dealing with people that are downtrodden. They're sad. They're worried about being overrun by Germany, right? Germany had much more powerful tanks. They were much more organized. They had machinery. They were unbelievably efficient, and they were just almost unstoppable. And he talked to the English people, and he said to them, never, ever, ever give in. Never give in. Never give up, unless it's for case of morality or good conscience. Never give in. Never give in to a seemingly overpowering force. Never, 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 never give in. That's what he said. What happened the next day in England? The whole country changed. They didn't have another gun. They didn't have another tank, another ship, another airplane, but their perspective changed. And if you can change your perspective and change the way you process information, and change your belief system and your beliefs about yourself, you too can accomplish just about anything. Thank you for your time.